Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. We're so excited to have you again. Yesterday I was so shocked during the interview granted the governor of Ondo State, who is also the governors forum chairman for Southwest. I was shocked by some of the statements that he made. Don't forget that this governor is actually a senior advocate of Nigeria. So with that pedigree, I was expecting him to say things different from what other governors are saying. But when he started talking about the meeting that they had with the presidential delegate from the presidency, I was so shocked. I just wish that I can bring that live for you to hear him say certain things. There were questions that were thrown at him, and his reactions were so shocking. I tell you the truth, and that is why Afenifere, the middle belt, that's Pandef, Ohanaeze and NBA took out time to give him a bit of their heart, and some of them said they are so shocked that he could talk like that about the social media regulation and also the issue of freezing the account of the NSAS protesters. People took time to talk about it, and that's what we want to look at. And I will just also talk about the interview and some of the things that he said during that interview. I mean, it was shocking, I tell you. News have it that wrote to me, Akeredolu of Ondo State yesterday received knocks for backing the freezing of NSAS promoters' account and regulation of social media. Among those who tongue large Akeredolu were Afenifere, Ohanaeze Niger Delta Forum, Pandef, Middle Belt Forum, Nigerian Bar Association, and civil society organization. Speaking on a day, court granted bail to five NSAS protesters and a female journalist in Abuja. Governor Akeredolu back freezing of bank accounts of NSAS promoters and asking those aggrieved to go to court and clear their names if they had nothing to hide. Speaking very honestly, I don't see anything wrong in it. The governor, who doubles as the chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum, said yesterday on Channels Television. He went further to say, and I quote, "If, for instance, my account was frozen, what would I do? All I would do is go back to court to explain. Even politicians, their accounts are sometimes frozen. You have to go to court and explain. And at the end of the day, the court will say, leave the account. The account should be defrozen and you take your money back," the governor said. Akeredolu, who also endorsed call for regulation of social media, said the protesters must explain the flow of funds into their accounts. If your account is frozen, you justify why the money was there. You came to explain to you what use you had put their money or this money. It will be explained. People will know, and the account will be defrozen. Akeredolu said, downplaying insinuation that the protesters were being charged for a treasonable offense. It is not a conclusion that those accounts were used for act of treason. Backing calls for the regulation of social media, he said, that's Akeredolu said, that they must be gatekeepers. Yes, you want to publish any news you like, there must be gatekeepers using technology that will be able to at least see what is right and what is wrong. He blamed fake news for the destruction of properties by hoodlums in the aftermath of the NSAS protests, adding that no government would allow fake news to take over the cyberspace. When hoodlums take over, a lot of fake news were fed to the public. People were reacting to it. It led to the destruction of property in Lagos, Akure, everywhere. If we cannot be disciplined enough to be able to know that we don't chunk out news that can cause a lot of damage in the society, then the government itself must be proactive enough to find a way to control it. Akeredolu posted a list posture elicited a sharp rebuke from some CSO leaders who described him as a military apologist and urged Nigerians not to be shocked by the governor's stance. Paved by at Akeredolu's stand, some CSO yesterday blasted him. Convener, Coalition in Defense of Nigerian Democracy and Constitution, CDNDC, Areyo Dare Atore, said Governor Akeredolu saved a military administration as the Attorney General in Ondo. He was the closest apologist of the military, but sadly, this trait has not left him as an enabler of dictatorship and anti-democratic force. Nigerians should not be shocked by Akeredolu's shameful support for the illegal freezing of the NSAS protesters' bank account and the unconscionable call for the regulation of social media. He has never been a pro-rule of law person to the heart, even as NBA president. Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, said this is a very shocking statement if truly the Ondo state governor said that he sees nothing wrong in freezing account of NSAS protesters and also supporting regulation of social media. It is really surprising that this is coming from a constitutional lawyer. Nigerians should be shocked because this is a lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, son, and he has made these kind of unbelievable complaints and does not see anything wrong undermining the violation of the fundamental human right of Nigerians express through peaceful means to express their concern and grievances. I think this is really sad and it is unfortunate because what goes up must come down. We have a situation where current leaders at various levels, when maltreated by previous regime, came out to protest, mobilize resources to defend their cause, and nobody froze their account, intimidated, and arrested them. Now they don't want other people to genuinely, democratically, responsibly, constitutionally raise their concern. This is really sad and this is not democratic. Even during the military regime, Nigerians express their mind through peaceful protest. Protest is part of democratic culture in every part of the world. The country director of Global Right Nigeria, Abiodun, said, I think we are in dead times and we must recognize that government is becoming so desperate and increasingly unreasonable. Akeredolu, a senior advocate of Nigeria, ought to understand better the rule of law and what a basically decent society should look like. Apparently, he would rather be aligned to draconian governance than walking a straight path. President and founder People Movement for New Nigeria (PMNN) Yahaya Ndu said, "A bad workman always quarrel with his tools, and the NSAS protest is, as far as I'm concerned, a tool that can be turned to public good. Why is it that it is easy for government to uncover and freeze account of supposed supporters of NSAS protests, but the same government in 5 years has not uncovered and frozen the account of sponsors of Boko Haram? I see the NSAS protest as an indication, or rather a confirmation, that there is something fundamentally dysfunctional in our governance mechanism. If we look earnestly, we can see that universities are still on strike. Medical workers are also on strike in some states. This should serve as pointer that we need to rework our governance mechanism and make them mass participatory and all-inclusive so we can move forward together as one." Reacting to Akeredolu position, the Pan-Yoruba Sociocultural Organization Afenifere warned the government against throwing his weight behind tyranny. Afenifere National Publicity Secretary Mr. Yinka Adumakin said the governor was a president of NBA who should not lend his weight to tyranny. He's backing illegal freezing of constitutionally recognized protesters' account, while the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, Mr. Malami, is asking the United Arab Emirates (UAE) to give him records of trials of Nigerian Boko Haram funders in UAE so he can determine whether justice was done. I don't think Mr. Governor, with his pedigree, would say indiscriminate freezing of account like junta is an idea of justice. I expect his media people to say he was not quoted correctly, as we don't see him as one of these fascist elements riding roughshod over the country. The Middle Belt Forum, also MBF, said the governor Akeredolu was working against Nigerian constitution for endorsing the ongoing prosecution of members of NSAS protesters and supporters by the federal government. His words, is he saying they should be prosecuted? That is very sad. It is sad. I mean, he's not even a Democrat. He's not living in democracy. He's living in authoritarianism. Government and not democracy. In a democracy, we have legitimate right to peaceful protest against the things that the government is doing that is not right. It is allowed in our constitution. Anybody going against the constitution of a country is going against our democracy, whether he is a governor or whoever he is. Publicity Secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, Mr. Ravnduka, said, though Akeredolu might have spoken from informed position, many Nigerians doubt the government and its workers. The governor of Ondo State is cerebral. I believe that whenever he speaks from an informed position. But then the average Nigerian find it difficult to believe the government and thus acting on its behalf. The timing of all these actions speaks volume. People protested peacefully, which the law allows. The government gave an impression that they have heard the complaint of the protester. The protesters were skeptical and demanded that concrete steps be taken. Up till date, nothing concrete has been set in motion to address the agitation except to horn some visible protesters. Does it give an impression that our government actually listened to the issues raised by the protesters? Definitely not. The average observer will simply conclude that the government sees any raised voice as a dissident voice and thus will ensure that no voice speaks up against any wrongdoing in the society. This is sad. The unfortunately cannot be explained away. This unfortunately cannot be explained away. Nobody will buy any story linking the protesters with act of terrorism. The chairman of the Niger Delta Forum and former military administrator of Akwa Ibom State, Ekomodo Idonson Kanga, retired, advised the federal government to treat the NSAS protest issue with utmost care, regardless of what the governor or anybody says. Nkanga made the assertion yesterday while reacting to the statement by Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu that there was nothing wrong in freezing the bank account of NSAS protester. His word, he said, let's be very honest, some of the governors cannot stand up for the right of their people in this country. They stand up and say things that will fester their nest. Maybe they have something they are looking for from the central government or from the party in the center, so they have to play down the issues at the detriment of their people. And the destiny of this country, I'm afraid, is not in the hands of governor. If we leave it in the hands of governors, we may have cause to lament. We don't know how some of them got into power, so they have to play to the gallery sometimes. My candid advice is for the federal government to make sure they treat this issue with utmost care. Those young men that protested stated their reason, so the federal government should make sure it does what is right, regardless of what a governor or anyone for that matter says, so we don't have a second wave of the crisis. So many responses coming from different places, but I just like to stop there. Go to our comment section. Let's interact. What do you have to say also about the statement?